Since I got at least 100 questions of when I will be doing one of these, and I kinda didn't really want to do one as they are pretty expensive and I didn't really want to get one at that price, I finally was able to get some for my web shop at a reduced price, so I figured why not build one for you as well. Let's go through the box quickly and then into a bit more detail. With this kit you get two decal sheets, a bigger one and a smaller one. The smaller one is just for some general details all around, and they even went as far as to writing something which you can almost read, and just looking good in general. They have added some seat belts as well with a couple of decals or details on there. Not sure if I will be using these or some additional decals, but we'll see how much I enjoy this build and how much time I want to spend on it. The same goes for the bigger decal sheet, a lot of nice and crisp details and nothing to complain there, even some carbon fiber all around with some texture to it. To make it even better, they also decided to add some chrome decals or some metal transfers, some 3D logos for the Mercedes and also for the rear view mirrors, and alongside they also have some mesh. Something Tamiya supplies in most of their kits and that comes in really handy is a sticker sheet with some masking tape on it, cut out along the edges in order to make it really easy to get a clean, crisp line on your clear parts when painting the edges black. It is a race car after all, so it comes with full slicks, no branding on the side, but I guess they supplied some decals for that, and a really small line in the middle from the molding, but either just leave that on and give it a super clean off the start racing line look, or just sand it up and make it look a bit used. And with the wheels and tires, of course, there are also some polycaps in order to make them spin a bit. The kit does not have a super insane amount of parts, but all the parts that are there are nicely detailed, even down to the coilovers with some nice detail on the inside and also on the coils and the outside as well. You can even see the detail in this, I think it's a vent for in the dashboard, and also the nice detailing on the floor pan. Even though it mostly will not be seen, it looks pretty accurate for a race car. The hood latches have some detail on it as well, and so does the steering wheel and the steering column with the shifters attached to it. The vents have some nice realistic looking mesh in it, so you could either just paint them or just replace them. I'm gonna go with painting them as I don't really have any replacement parts other than the mesh supplied in the kit, but I don't really like that for these small details. With this being a Tamiya kit, all the body parts are thought through really well and molded separately if needed, and if not, they were molded onto the body itself. Now, as you can see, some of those hood latches and trunk latches were molded separately to make it easier to paint them, and the same goes for these inside edges on the front fenders, some of these air vents, and also on the bumper. It has a lot of round shapes, which would make it a lot harder to mold it in one piece with the body and not have a lot of mold lines. The roll cage is also nicely detailed, super crisp and clean, not really too much of the mold lines showing, so the cleanup will be pretty minimal. So with this being a race car, the interior is obviously stripped. You can see some of the detail on the underside, and also mainly the detail of a stripped interior on the inside. They left the center console in. Not a big deal, just a bit of masking to paint that up, and the rest is pretty much one piece, with the seat of course being separate. They did not mold in any seat belts, which would make it a lot easier if you wanted to use some aftermarket ones or just use the supplied decals. The door cards are also nicely detailed and exactly to spec for a race car, and of course some amazing disc brakes with some nice clean, crisp and deep details in it, and some of the calipers attached to it look pretty much one-to-one with the actual parts. The kit does not come with a lot of chrome parts, but the parts that are chromed are really nice and helpful. Of course, you have the Pan America style grille and some of the backings for some of the buckets of the lights. Front and rear, of course, that is. So just like the rest of the kit, these clear parts are also of some insane high quality and maybe justify the high price of these kits a bit. So you can see a super clear line where you need to mask it or put the masking templates on, and also have some decals for some vents, I guess. The same goes for the front and side glass, also for the taillights, super nice and crisp casting, no bubbles and no imperfections to spot whatsoever. So on that last sprue for the exterior, you can see some of the parts are molded separately, which of course are left out here, and the front bumper, but they did leave a nice big edge in order to glue it on, and also left you a lot of space for those hood latches. All these panel lines are super nice and deep, and I don't really think they need any adjustment whatsoever, so just a bit of sanding and they can all just be painted. And just like on the hood, the trunk also has some of these latches. And if you looked closely on that other sprue with the exterior parts, the door handles are molded separately to make it easier to paint this inside and have it look detailed if you look on top or from underneath, as if you could just grab onto it. Some nice vents to show the exhausts that are also in a separate sprue.